What is the situation with coronavirus cases in Vietnam, the teaching English market in Vietnam, and how that will affect you if you're planning to come teach English in Vietnam? Hi, this is Alex Stevenson from Ninja Teacher, and the coronavirus has been all over the news recently, so I thought I'd make a video to address the situation and tell you what you need to know about teaching English in Vietnam during this time. I won't go into the medical details of the coronavirus because there are a lot of highly qualified professionals out there that you can learn from to know more about the virus itself. The one thing I will mention is that if you're an adult in good physical health, then you don't really need to worry about your own health and safety. It's mainly the elderly and those who have pre-existing medical conditions that really need to worry and that it may cause complications with and potentially lead to death, as well as possibly children that have weak immune systems that need to worry about this. So what is the situation like here in Vietnam? Well, I must say that the Vietnamese government has done a very impressive job of keeping the spread of the virus to a minimum. There were only 16 confirmed cases in total in Vietnam. There were only 3 here in Ho Chi Minh City, and now all of them have recovered and been released, including a 73-year-old man as well as an infant. The fast action of the Ministry of Health and the Vietnamese government was very effective by quarantining those who were infected and identified as infected, as well as those people who were in contact with those who were affected. Vietnam was also one of the few countries that in the initial phases of this cancelled flights from China, as well as not granting visas to Chinese citizens and people that have been traveling from or through affected areas. And now there have been a lot of cases in other countries too, so countries that were worried about traveling to Vietnam now have more cases than Vietnam, with the total number being 0 in Vietnam as far as we know with confirmed cases. So, you know, the US has over 100 cases now, the UK over 50, Canada over 20, I think. And then other countries in Europe have a lot more, like Germany even has 200 cases and Spain over 200 cases. And then of course there's Italy, which has over 2,500 cases, and other countries like South Korea, which has 4,000 cases, I think over 5,000 now. A lot of them are seeing lots of cases, whereas Vietnam really has contained it so well. I think the Vietnamese government also didn't sensationalize it, but also didn't downplay it either. They had very clear messaging throughout. And a good example of this is the funny video that was actually a Vietnamese pop song that was converted into a coronavirus video, and it's going viral right now because it was on the John Oliver show, and everyone's like doing TikTok videos about it. It's a bit cheesy, but it kind of represented what Vietnam was doing, was really spreading a clear message of how to prevent the spread of it, as well as basically fostering a kind of community where everyone didn't want this to spread. You know, the parents didn't want their kids to go to school, they supported that. There was just a big commitment from the community and the government to just address this very effectively. And I think right now you're seeing other countries that aren't doing this. Again, the John Oliver show, he pointed out how Trump has not had very clear messaging of should we be worried, are there going to be more cases, aren't there? So I think Vietnam did a good job with this too. So with all that said, how is this affecting the teaching English in Vietnam market? Well, there has been a closure of schools for the past month. So the idea behind this was that sending children to schools was a really bad thing to do, in the sense that it could cause exponential spread of the virus, and the best way to prevent that, and doing this as a preventative measure, was to actually close schools for a whole month after the Lunar New Year holiday. So schools haven't been back, and as of right now, they are still closed. At the time, a lot of people thought it was quite extreme for the Vietnamese government to say that schools would be closing, and they aren't allowing any private English centers to open either, as well as public schools. So a lot of people thought it might be quite extreme, but I think at this point, it's clear that it was a good decision to make, as the results have spoken for themselves. However, this has been hard on quite a few different groups of people, and I'll mostly be focusing on foreign English teachers and English centers and jobs because of this channel, what it's about. However, I am actually quite concerned about the well-being of the Vietnamese employees at a lot of companies, as well as students who are missing out on school, and just the economy as a whole, because those are things that are being affected by this. For foreign English teachers, things have been tough, with some people being affected more than others. So this closure of schools came right after the Lunar New Year holiday, which is the big holiday here in Vietnam. And a lot of people had been saving up to travel during that time, as that's when most people get time off from work. And a lot of people were expecting to spend their savings and then come back and carry on working. However, with schools closed, that's been a whole month that they have not been actually teaching. Now, how different schools have dealt with this has varied from school to school. Teachers at bigger, well-established English centers and public school companies who get paid a salary have been better off for the most part. So a lot of them are still being paid for this time, and they typically just have to go into work and do admin and some other work, even though they aren't teaching. However, even now, at this point, a lot of these companies are starting to reduce pay, or they are telling teachers that they need to take paid vacation days. So even at these companies, things in some cases aren't the best. On the other end of the spectrum, there are those English teachers who get paid hourly, who have been completely out of work and not being paid at all. And unfortunately, this has caused some people to have to go home. A lot of people have decided that they aren't sure about the future here, so they are leaving. And at the same time, those people, and a lot of them, actually don't have the finances to keep them going, which really is a shame, and I feel so bad for the people who are in those situations and that have had to come out to Vietnam and start a whole new life and then find themselves in this situation. A lot of schools are somewhere in the middle, where they might have reduced the pay by a certain percentage or offered a few hours, and there are even some schools that have started online English teaching from scratch, where they didn't have it before, so that their teachers can still teach and get paid. So they'll be teaching online to the same students that they would normally, but the students are at home and they're either sitting in the office at work or doing it from home. I think that's actually quite impressive that a lot of these companies have put in the money and the resources to make that happen so quickly. And those companies that have set it up and provided their teachers with hours so that they can still get paid, I really commend them for that, because as someone who runs a company, implementing something like that quickly is quite a feat. Doing that is something that's really, really good of them to do. And as a side note, I will actually be interested to see if Vietnam gets more into online teaching and learning, because at the moment, schools are very focused on in-classroom English teaching, and parents prefer their children to learn in the classroom rather than online. So when are schools opening again? Well, the government is making decisions as things progress. So at the moment, the proposal stands that schools will reopen on the 16th of March. So in a week or two from now, hopefully schools will be back up and running. Here at Ninja Teacher Academy, we really hope that's the case, because we have a class of 4-week TESOL trainees that have just finished up and are now about to look for work, so we want to be able to get them placed in jobs as soon as possible so they can start working and earning. So what if you're thinking of coming out to teach English in Vietnam in the next few months? Well, my prediction, and of course there's no way to know for sure, but I think that schools will be back open again and things will be back to normal by the end of March. Vietnam currently has 0 cases, so it's a safe place to be. And despite prejudices against Asia, this is a good country to be in the world right now. As for job opportunities and openings, getting hired here, well, we've spoken to our partner English centers and public school companies, and a lot of them are hiring even as of right now for when schools open again. And when they're open again, they will be hiring as usual. There's always the usual turnover of teachers, and right now more teachers have probably left, so we don't expect things to be any different once schools are running and open again. Okay, so that's the update for now. I will post another video when we have more information, and in the meantime, make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you can see that video and any others we post. And I will speak to you soon. Peace.